been good friends a long time. Have we ever really dived into this?
Like, we scratch the surface.
Yeah.
Like, I know the basic outline of your career. I think you know the basic outline of mine, but like, not like the stories and stuff.
I know,
like,
right?
And the back stories, you know?
Yeah, no. And we are sitting in the backyard of my house in beautiful Southern California. You will hear some motorcycles. You will probably hear some potential gardening, but hopefully the audio won't get too much into that. So take me to your career, man. I mean, I want to hear your story. So,
Well, I mean, for me, I grew up in Manhattan Beach, California. It was kind of an X Games type era. You know, at that time, coming up in Manhattan Beach, you know, Maricosta had a good football team. That was the high school that I was kind of slotted to go to. They were big on volleyball, and then everybody else was kind of X Games sports. You know, my dad was from NorCal, though, so I grew up playing, you know, basketball, baseball, football. Got to high school, and it was like, I thought I was going to be a basketball player, you know? And then the reality set in that I was 6'5", and I was going to have to be like lightning quick or jump 40 inches,
exactly.
And that just wasn't in the deal. And I had a great high school coach and I ended up going not to Maricosta. I went to Peninsula High School in Palos Verdes because my dad went there. Two great academic schools, but I ended up going up there because the baseball coach really opened some doors for me. Okay. You know, Gary Poe, had just had a great influence on my life, still a very close friend. And he was just great he had such a network of like scouts and coaches all in and around, not just the South Bay, not just California, but like across the country. You know, he used to bring in like Stan Meek, who was the pitching coach at Oklahoma at the time. You know, now Stan is he's the head of the scouting department, I think, for the Marlins.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Still, you know, and like, it was like guys like that, like,
yeah, that's impressive.
That he was bringing in. We do this Christmas tree lot fundraiser every year. And so I was getting access to these, you know, these coaches that were just like the normal high school experience you probably wouldn't get, you know, and he just really taught me how to be a pro. And so through that, I kind of transitioned in high school where I was like thinking I was, you know, basketball was my thing, to like starting to, you know, my coach put me in these wooden bat leagues. We're playing at Blair Field down in Long Beach, doing all this stuff. I started getting exposure to talent around Southern California, you know, outside of the little South Bay bubble, and was doing really well, you know. And I remember being at Blair, and, you know, it was these wood bat scout league teams that were sponsored by like all of the major league clubs. So they'd use wood. So you get used to pitching against wood, you know what I mean? I'm getting inside on people, breaking up, you know, breaking up bats and stuff.
Such a fun feeling the first time that happens.
Yeah, and I remember I was a sophomore in high school, and they had all the pro guys would start to come in, all the minor league guys for these teams would start to come in and get their hacks live, you know, against pro guys and high school guys mixed in. And I remember I was at Blair, and I struck out the side against like 3 pro guys.
Oh, wow.
And the catcher was Gary Poe's son, this guy Scott Poe, who was a senior when I was a sophomore, and he was just laughing, giggling. He's like, dude, you just struck out 3 pro guys. And that's when I kind of was like, oh, like maybe there's a path here, you know. My dad was tall, you know, I was a tall, big kid, had a strong arm. It's like maybe this is something for me, and just kind of kept developing, but was skinny. I didn't have the velo. I was, you know, none of us were really on weight programs back then.
I agree.
You know, or any of that stuff. We weren't, so I hadn't really like maximized that. And so I was like 84, 86. But Dave Snow ended up signing me at Long Beach. I was dead set on going to play there.
Yeah.
And then I was playing against a lot of the Toronto scout teams, and Toronto ended up in 94. So I was dead set, like, okay, I'm going to college. I really made the decision based on baseball. Like, I'm just Dave Snow.
Well, he's
at the
one
time,
of the best.
Yeah, Long Beach State. I'm going to go there and pitch for him, and, you know, want to play pro ball, all that. And the Blue Jays didn't sign their first round pick. I think it was Dante Powell or something. I think he was like a Fullerton guy.
Okay.
Passed up on a, you know, set, I think indicated, I'll sign, and then didn't in the first round, so that they had some cash left over, and they had drafted me in the 50th round. And I think I went to the Junior Olympic Festival that year, and I hit like, I was 84, 86, maybe touching 87, 88,
Yeah.
you know, and I think I hit 90 or 91. They said, I can't believe it, but at the Junior Olympic Festival.
Maybe a little adrenaline.
Maybe at Busch Stadium, you know,
Yeah. Yeah,
for sure, like
absolutely, right?
adrenaline something. So right time, right place. And then I came back and they saw me as this tall kid that's projectable
Yeah.
and basically signed me to what at the time was like, you know, late third, fourth round kind of offer.
Oh, that's
and
great.
then saying, you're not going to have to throw a million curveballs in college, you know, get to develop you in pro ball, pitch into wood bats. And so, and the thing they also did, which was really unique, and I don't know how many times it's been done since, but I think it was only a couple times at the time where they knew my parents were educators and that college was important to me. So they gave me this deal where I could go 2 full years to school and then play short season pro ball in the summer.
Oh, wow.
And then my third year, I would go play full time.
Yeah.
And then maybe in the fall, I could knock out some classes,
Yeah, so
you know, when
at
I'm
least
home
you
in the
get to-
off season.
Yeah, you get to start knocking stuff out. for
You get a
sure.
little bit of college underway and you can kind of have the best of both worlds,
Yeah.
you know? And so it was great because after my playing career, having done that, if I had just signed and gone and played baseball, I don't know that I ever would have gotten my degree, you know? But from the playing side of it, it was just crazy to me how once I got in, you miss spring training. You know how all the coaches are there during spring training. They had already left by the time I got there. So I had
nobody
time,
knew who you were.
You know, except for the guys,
Yeah.
my coaches that I played for on that short season team. So, you know, I remember third year coming in. I'd been in the organization 2 years, you know, and third year I'm going to my first spring training and people are like, hey, welcome to the organization. I'm like, do you guys even talk? Like I was really kind of amazed. It's almost like the scouting department and the player development department. It's almost like they were two separate entities. You know what I mean? And so, yeah, I got in, and because I was kind of the way it was structured, I just kind of got thrown in the bullpen. You know, it was kind of the deal. And I just was like, okay, I got to grind,
Yeah.
you know, and from there it was just kind of a slow grind each year up the ranks, you know, trying to develop a little bit more velocity because everybody, you know, I remember my first bullpen, it was crazy. A guy named Gary Glover, who became a good friend of mine, and Roy Halladay also, who became a good friend of mine. I was throwing a bullpen between them.
Okay.
And I walked in, I was used to being like the biggest guy on my team. And then everybody was me. Everybody was 6'4" and 200 plus pounds in Toronto's organizations and a right-hander that was a power arm.
Yeah.
So I'm throwing my first bullpen and I'm throwing, you know, 86, 87, 88, you know, and these dudes are throwing low to mid 90s and just, you know, Halliday's just absolutely throwing Scud missiles and it sounds like bombs are going off in the catcher's glove. And I'm like, I just remember going right there like, I'm going to have to really work to be successful in this game, you know, and in this organization to get noticed, you know, and it was like, that was the start, you know.
Well, in your defense, he's a future Hall of Famer, so
He was,
he's
man.
not the only, you know,
He
you're not
was.
the only guy we're throwing next to him. You're like, oh my gosh, who's that guy?
Yeah, I know. Actually, a really funny story. It was funny. I got signed and, you know, thought like, you know,
Yeah.
I'm all big stuff, you know, and they gave me this ticket and it said limo on it. So I fly thinking I'm getting in a limo, you know, and so I go fly into the Tampa airport, you know, their spring training site was Dunedin, Florida. I'd never been to Florida before. And I pull up and I'm walking down to the baggage claim and I'm like, yeah, you know, I'm here for the limo, you know, with the Toronto Blue Jays,
Yeah.
you know, and he's like, oh yeah, it's right there. And he points and it's like an Astro van that says limo on the side of it. So I roll in and then we go around like, you know, the Tampa area, like leaving and 4 more people pile in. And on the way to the hotel, we're driving to all these different places, like dropping people off. So it was like, I mean, it was a glorified taxi,
Yeah,
you know, if
exactly,
that,
yeah.
and it, with other people in it, dropping them off, going on this roundabout detour. And then I get dropped off at like the Comfort Inn Motel in Dunedin, Florida on the side of like, I think this main highway 19.
Yeah, 19.
None of the highways even have sidewalks out there, you know, these huge gullies, right? Because they get these torrential downpours. And so
right.
I remember it was like, I start walking to this restaurant and it just starts downpouring and I'm like slogging through the mud and like just going, oh my gosh, man, like this is not Manhattan Beach, California anymore.
Very, very quick intro to minor league baseball, right? Immediately you're like, oh, this is okay. This is professional baseball. I was expecting something different.
Oh man, I thought, yeah, it's like once, saying all the right things to get you signed.
Yeah,
And then once they
exactly.
sign you, you're just like, I'm doing all my own laundry. I'm just grinding in the low minor leagues,
I know. That is funny. Okay, so you're throwing between Holiday and Glover. What's the next step? Where did you start to kind of make that ascent where you're like, okay, this is going good. I've figured some things out.
I didn't. I mean, I struggled.
Okay.
I was trying to figure out my delivery, trying to kind of, I think the thing in high school, my coach was very much about learning to pitch with 3 pitches.
Okay.
And I did that, but I didn't really maximize velocity. His big thing was being able to command the baseball and pitch with, multiple pitches. And then in Toronto, it was like, dude, if I'm going to survive in this organization, like I gotta develop the fastball, And so I think there was a time where I was so bent on like really developing velocity that I kind of lost a little bit of the feel for pitching.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at my minor league statistics, I mean, the first 4 years and change, I mean, I'm just like, it's not pretty. I'm just grinding and trying to find my way through. And I think just based on my work ethic and logging innings and, I think the fact, the way I took care of my body, the way I got in the gym, the way I ran, did, my Job exercises. I mean, I just didn't get outworked. And so because of that, I think I kept moving up despite the statistics. But I was kind of just spinning my wheels, and in mid-A in Hagerstown, Maryland.
Mm-hmm. Been there. Yeah.
Mid-A Sally League, just like that league's a grind.
Yeah, that league, worst weather.
And I had to double up in it, but that's so I basically put up a terrible year there. I was on the verge of getting released. I had a pitching coach named Hector Barrios that went to bat for me, and I got there and I'm struggling again, man. I'm putting up a bad year. It's like I'm getting ready to get released.
Yeah.
And he just grabbed me. And I'd kind of been doing a lot of Tom House stuff. I'd been working with Tom House, and it was great. Great with the conditioning, mechanics, all that. But I think, and to no fault to Tom, but his focus was a lot on the mechanics. And so I think a lot of the time I was constantly thinking about my delivery.
Yeah.
And I wasn't freeing it up and being an athlete.
Yeah.
And that's what Hector, he got me to do. And I was real fortunate. I had like a 7 ERA. I was spinning my wheels, and he grabbed me and was just like, let's go. And he got me to just free up the delivery and really start pitching like an athlete. And within weeks, I went from being kind of upper 80s to like 91, 93 with a really good split. And then, my slider was always just kind of, average to good on a good day, but nothing spectacular. But I was really kind of like sinker split and then could elevate with the fastball.
Nice. A little ahead of your time then.
Yeah, I didn't really know. I was like trying to spin at the top of the zone,
exactly.
But like I really relied on the sink, and then the split was really kind of the difference maker for me. So in those last 2.5 months, I basically saved my career. I don't think I gave up a run and got my ERA from like probably mid 7s all the way down to the mid or low 4s.
Wow. Yeah, that's hard to do too. I mean, that's a lot of consecutive zeros.
Got invited to an instructional league for the first time. Next year came back in spring training, really kind of grown into my body, and then feeling like, okay, I'm kind of finding that.
Yeah, how much do you weigh at this point? Are you still 185? Or
No. So I was probably, in high school, I was probably like 200 pounds.
Oh, wow. Okay, so there's some size
to
there.
205.
Yeah.
And by this point, now I'm 4 years in, now I'm 220.
Okay.
225, somewhere in there.
The 6'5", 225 guy that we see so many of.
Yeah, and so then I had a good instructional league that kind of put me back on pace. I had a good spring training. I jumped the Sally League, so I was kind of back now with the guys that I had started with in AA. Mm-hmm. And then I put up a really big year in AA as a setup man.
Nice.
And I had like a 2.8.
And where was that?
That was in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay.
First year in that
Southern
stadium.
League,
We were playing in a brand new stadium facility in Sevierville, Tennessee.
Okay.
Near the UT campus.
Yep.
And it was awesome. And so after that, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a 40-man or a big league invite. Got none of that.
Okay.
Minor league spring training. I'm thinking, oh, I'm going to get claimed. Nobody claims me. You know, you're just like, oh, man. But I was really at that time, I think mentally too, was like turning a corner, you know? And so I was just like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter that I got a big league spring training. Whoever they put in front of me, man, I am just going to, you know, I'm going to dominate them. And I had this confidence now, you know, really that I had found that kind of blend between having a solid delivery, but also moving well and being an athlete on the mound. And so I went back in minor league spring training. I got called up on backup. And Roy Halladay, you know, my buddy, God rest his soul, he was going through where he had a total setback. He had gotten to the big leagues, almost thrown a no-hitter the year before in like 2000.
I remember this, yeah.
And then he kind of lost it. He was a really over-the-top type guy, four-seam, big overhand curveball, and it was like guys in the big leagues were just kind of like spitting on the curveball now and just waiting for the four-seamer. And so he went through this whole thing where he had to go and, you know, everyone knows the story, where he went back to A-ball, dropped the arm down to three-quarter slot and really like reinvented himself. And it's like, just shows like his makeup and his character to be able to do that, you know, go totally and basically start all over again.
Yeah.
But this was where he was struggling, and he had a really bad spring training. So he got knocked out in like the first or second inning, just got kind of lit up. And so I got in. And I broke a bat and struck a guy out, and the pitching coach was like, why aren't you here with us? You know, Buck Martinez was the manager, and something O'Connor. Mark O'Connor.
Okay.
Great guy. I think he pitching coach for the Rangers later too. And I'm like, I don't know, man. You tell me.
Yeah.
But he was new to the organization because they had just kind of cleaned house, and then Buck Martinez had come in, and so he's like, well, dude, we want you to come back on backup. So I came back another day, and Chris Carpenter, who was a starter for the Blue Jays then, later,
Man,
you know,
they had some good arms.
Yeah, they had some big arms, man. You know, so he got a line drive like right off the shin. So I get in another backup game. I break another bat, strike one or two guys out. Same thing. He's like, I'm going to keep my eyes on you when you're in AAA. So I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to AAA, this or that. Have this great spring training, both had those two call-ups and on backup in big league spring training games, and then just dominated in
and you feeling
AAA.
confident
I'm
out
feeling
there?
like I'm going to AAA. I'm getting close, you know. And
for sure. No, I know that feeling. Yeah.
they post the rosters. I'm on the AA roster again. And I'm like, I posted 2.8. You know, what?
Yeah.
And I'd kind of always just kind of like been a good soldier, this and that. I called the pitching coordinator over and I was like, hey man, I've never said anything but like, what's the deal with this? You know, and he's like, just be patient. And I'm like, patient? Like, I belong in AAA. You know, I should have got maybe even a camp, a big league camp. I didn't get that. Like, I'm mowing down everybody that's in front of me. Like, what's the deal? He's just like, just hang tight. So it turns out some dude on the pitcher on the AAA roster, had been stealing money out of guys' lockers.
Oh my gosh.
And they bring us all together and they're like, all right, we have this guy on camera. They were lying. Yeah. But they said, we have you on camera. You need to give the money back. He had stolen either $300 from like a bonus baby or something, Wow. One of the first rounders.
Yeah.
Long story short, they release him and I get moved up onto the AAA roster.
Gosh.
But then I go and I don't pitch in the first 7 or 8 games. But I think this was where I was, and I think I'm sure you've known this at different points in your career. And I think a lot of athletes can get to this point where you're just like, it doesn't matter what the opportunity is. Like, I'm going to make the opportunity.
Yeah.
And so guys in the bullpen are like, dude, you got to go talk to the manager. You haven't played in the first week. And there were opportunities, and he had used the same guys in the bullpen a few times through. And and I'm just sitting there. And I'm getting ready to talk to him. The reliever gives up a 2-run home run, ties the game. I go in, I pitch 3 innings of relief, I get the win. And then without having pitched the first week, so in 3 weeks I had like 17 appearances. I broke the record for appearances in a month.
How's your arm feeling?
Good, because I was just on, first thing I was like, 22, 23, whatever it was. And I was just like, on adrenaline, and I was just on a mission. You know what I mean? It was like one of those where you're just like locked in. And 6 weeks later, I was in the big leagues.
Yeah, that's awesome, man.
You know, and you're just like, without a camp, because I had like a 1.5 and Homer Bush, the second baseman, pulled a hamstring. I got a call up.
Yeah. And how'd they tell you?
You know, they called me in the office, and my manager, Omar Malave, was just like, I got some good news and I got some bad news. You know, what do you want first? I'm like, well, give me the good news, man. And he's like,
Took a little different approach there.
you're going to the big leagues. And I just remember just like my whole body, dude, just like tingles. You know, you're just like, wow, this is everything I work for, you know? And I'm like, well, what's the bad news? How can there be any bad news, you know? And he's like, well, we're going to miss you here. And I'm like, get out of here, dude. I'm not going to miss you.
That's awesome.
You know? And so it just like one of those things you always remember, like
Yeah.
calling my dad. Dude, I mean, the only time I saw my dad cry was like when our dog died,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And he's just like bawling on the phone.
Yeah.
And my sister and my mom are going crazy, screaming. And they're on the next flight. And then if I didn't pitch, I don't think I pitched the first night, but I got in the second night against Baltimore. And I struck out the catcher, and I can't believe I'm blanking on his name.
Is it Chris Hoyles in, or is Chris Hoyles gone?
Maybe it was Chris Hoyles. Who was it? How do I not know my first major league strikeout? God, I haven't even talked about it. See, like we were talking about, like I haven't talked about like my baseball career to anybody in years, man.
Yeah.
But they were there, and it was awesome. And yeah, I was up for a week or week and a half, something like that. Went back down, had a great year.
Was there a reason you went back down, or is it just Homer Bush
they had
got
a
healthy?
guy named, remember Joey, what's his name, from San Diego? Big
Big dude.
Joey Hamilton.
Okay.
Cincinnati, the Padres, and then he was getting lit up, and everyone thought, like, I came out and I pitched like 2 or 3 outings. I pitched great.
Yeah.
Went to Yankee Stadium on my dad's birthday and threw. I got called up. Never forget my buddy Chris Woodward, who's now the manager of the Rangers.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It was on his birthday, so I got called up June 27th, and then later I pitched on my dad's birthday, July 3rd, and I pitched 2 scoreless against the Yankees in Yankee Stadium.
Yeah. That's unreal.
You know, it was amazing.
Yeah.
I remember like warming up. I felt like I was just like levitating off the ground, man. I was like, they're like, you're in. And I'm like, this is what? I'm at Yankee Stadium. I'm going in the game right now, you know? And then part of you's like, yeah, I'm going in the game. And then the other part of you's like, okay, it's some kind of crazy dream. Like I'm going to wake up in a minute and, you know, someone's going to pinch me. But I remember like walking to the gate, and the guy just opened the gate, and I'm just like looking at Yankee Stadium. And I just blacked out.
Yeah.
Like I have zero memory from the warning track, and then it was like, whoosh, like you know, like a dream, dude.
Yeah.
Like I came through, I hit the infield grass, and I was like, and I think I might have sailed the fastball over the catcher's head, like the first one to the backstop. He's looking in the dugout, like, dude, you sure you want this guy in the game?
Yeah.
And then I threw a strike. I think I broke Jeter's bat, or I got him fisted. I, got Bernie Williams out somehow. I got Posada out looking like on an inside heater.
Yeah.
And I'm like, it was crazy. But you know what's funny? Pitching against the Yankees and they had crazy 100+ win season teams, legendary World Series teams at the time. But pitching against them to me was easier than pitching against the no-name organizations like the Devil Rays. Because I had pitched 1,000 times in my mind to Bernie Williams and Posada and Jeter and all these dudes. It's like I knew I had a plan.
Yeah.
And then I'm pitching against, at the time they were called the Devil Rays. And I'm like, who are these guys? And I would get lit. I'd just guys hitting lasers in the gaps against me, But, so it was special. I got called up 01. I thought I was going to I'm getting a September call-up. I went down AAA. Handle my business the rest of the year. I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to get a call up here. I get no call up. And it was such a bummer because it was 01. And that's when 9/11 happened.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Blue Jays were I think, I'd have to check this, but I think the Blue Jays may have even been playing when Bush was throwing out the first pitch.
Okay.
And I'm like, I should be there.
Yeah.
This is historic for my country,
exactly.
Not just baseball, it's beyond baseball.
Yeah, that's a great point.
And I was like, man, I just felt so robbed, and I'll never know like why that happened. But then the next year I went back, and I think part of me getting there a little bit is, we talked about this a little bit, is that, I kind of competed against my dream a little bit. I really had that like kind of grinder mentality, underdog mentality a little bit,
sure.
50th round draft pick. And then you get there and you're like, you're not, everyone's doing everything for Mr. Bowles, here's your hotel room key. Here, Mr. Bowles, would you like a Merlot and a steak, walking up the back of the, the flight, walking up the, you go on the tarmac and you're walking up the, the back of the plane, kind of thing, and staying in 5-star hotels, and you kind of like lose your edge a little bit.
Yeah, that's interesting.
And I think there was, a little bit of doubt creeped in, with me. And so I kind of did this ping pong the next 2 years in 02, 03, where I was kind of like in AAA, and then I get in the big leagues, and, I have a pitching coach, try to like tinker and change my mechanics.
Oh, yeah.
You feel like you have to be compliant. I got to listen. I got to be coachable.
For sure. Yeah, that's a big thing.
But then I get away from like what I'm doing that got me there. So then I go down to AAA, I'd scrap it and I'd dominate.
Yeah.
Then I get a call up, and get a chance here or there, but that was kind of it a little bit. I think there was, a part of me that was kind of fighting myself. So you look back and knowing what you know now, and you're like, you wish you could go kind of shake that 24-year-old kid and say like,
you ain't lying.
Just trust yourself, trust your stuff. You're good enough to be here. You belong here, that kind of thing. But then at the same token, I'm so grateful for how much time I got.
Yeah. No, for sure. And it's funny you say that, because we've talked about that before, of like, one of the reasons I got into coaching was to be that guy, like to be the guy to be like, hey man, you're fine. Like, you're all right. Like, you're, again, the one pitch away mantra, the one out away, the one outing away to being back to where you want to be. And I think those coaches are so valued. And you hear, your story about Barrios. I mean, that's fantastic. But yeah, it's the stuff we know now that I wish we knew when we were 24.
Yeah, and the crazy part about the game too, and I hope it's changed. And I should ask this question to my friends that are still, in coaching and, in organizations, around major leagues. But Toronto was a first-class organization, man, and just really about development and about doing things the right way, about the process and those kinds of things. And that was great. And then you get to the big leagues, and man, it is just all about results.
Yeah.
And I would have a thing where I go too scoreless or something like that. Or, hey, Bowlesy, great job, man. Hey, you're throwing the heck out of it. You look great, blah, blah, blah. I mean, just everybody's your best friend. And then I go out the next outing and I give up a run, and literally same coaches just ghost me in the hallway, just walk right by me. And you're like, wow. And there was a lot of that. And I think we had some staffs too that were like, they felt pressured to, I'm sure we weren't, Boston and New York were kicking butt at the time, and we weren't competing for division titles. So they're thinking about their jobs and this and that. Yeah. But like, how's walking by me and not saying what's up going to help me throw up a zero in my next outing? You know what I mean? And so, but it was really that mentality where you're just like, man, it was put up or shut up. And I totally get that. It's a performance-based industry. We all know that. You can get released at any time. You gotta perform. But I just didn't see how that mentality was going to help people get consistent results or perform their best on the field.
Yeah, I would agree.
And unfortunately, it was a little like that, in the big leagues, with Toronto,
Interesting, man. Yeah. No, I would think that.
What about you? I mean, what was your experience in kind of the minor league grind, so to speak?
There was a lot of that too. It was, there were managers that I had great relationships with, and especially when I was pitching well, might find myself in the same, eatery or bar, and super cool. And then the same situation, I'm not pitching well, and it's like, hey, dude, this is the manager's bar. You're out of here. And
by the way, what was that? I hated that.
Oh, I don't know.
Like, what was that unwritten rule, right? Yeah. Like, if I show up at the bar, and we're all of age at this time, right?
Exactly.
So,
yeah,
but I show up at the bar and the manager's in there, I can't have a beer.
Yeah.
Or I can't sit down. We hang out with each other all the time. I mean, I think actually if we sat down and we had a beer once in a while, when you're in AA, AAA, that kind of thing, you're not. Yeah,
you're an adult.
Yeah, you're an adult. You're of age, right? Like, why can't we do that?
Yeah.
In fact, when I was with Colorado, I got released and I spent half a season with Colorado. I got released by the Brewers midseason. I spent half a season with the Rockies in 2004. Bob McClure, great pitching coach. man, you know him, right?
Yeah.
And dude, I mean, this guy pitched in World Series with the Brewers in the mid '80s and everything. I mean, he had every reason to be like kind of like full of himself and stuff. He used to like, have us come over to his hotel room and we'd have a few pops and we just talk like
Yeah.
we're talking right
Yeah.
now. And I'm like, that would help so much.
And the resource
Somebody
that was him.
giving their
Yeah.
knowledge and,
Yeah.
and giving you feedback. I mean, how many times do you like go out and have an outing and like a pitching coach, in minor leagues or a manager? I mean, they didn't even talk to you.
Yeah. for
You
sure.
know?
Yeah. You got, like you said, ghosted.
It's just kind of that
Best way to
sink or
put it.
swim mentality. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? And yeah, he was great too. He was one of the great ones. And you wish you'd had more of those.
Yeah.
You know?
It's funny you mentioned Bob because we talked to Jeff Francis a couple episodes ago.
I played with Jeff.
Did you?
So
Yeah.
in 04.
Yeah.
He was kind of like the
Yep.
young rookie coming
Yep.
up.
Yep. So
Yeah.
he mentioned Bob having a huge impact, and it's amazing. You two have mentioned him. I've probably heard 15 people mention him.
Yeah.
Throughout the years when you're like, oh, you want to be with him, and he's the guy, and just little things like that, taking the time to get to know you as a person, because that's equity that you'll build, and then he'll get to this guy pitched 18 years in the big leagues, like you said, World Series.
Yeah.
I mean, the amount of the knowledge, the resource, the amount that guy can pass on to a young player and a young athlete who's just trying to figure things out, huge. I mean, it's amazing.
What I liked about him was he had the mechanical foundation. He understood the delivery, but he also understood that a lot of times when you're not moving well or your arms, not in the right slot, or you're not, you're flying open or what, that it's not just a physical thing.
Yeah.
Right? Like that is manifesting sometimes from what's going on between the ears.
For sure.
And he was so good at just knowing the right thing to say, coming out at a mound visitor in a bullpen, to cue the mental side, to get you to kind of like take down the anxiety, stop beating your head against a wall when you throw 2 bad sliders and you're just going to fire 5 more. And he get you to kind of like, hey, dial it down, maybe drop like a funny joke or something like that, or just, kind of get to lighten things up a little bit. And he was great like that, understanding kind of that blend between, hey, just because you see something mechanically, a lot of times it's like it doesn't need a mechanical fix.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can just be instilling a little bit of confidence. Sometimes like it can be getting that kid just to relax by cracking a joke or, and also what made him great, I think, was he asked as many questions as he did. He wasn't just telling you stuff. He's asking, well, what did you feel on that?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what was your, what were you trying, what was your mindset there?
Yeah.
What were you thinking about executing pre-pitch? What did you feel in kind of the flow of the delivery there, And he was great like that.
Yeah, no, that's just a mark of a great coach, somebody who can get into the mind of an athlete. Because like you mentioned before, this is not just a physical endeavor. I mean, it's such a mental exercise. And, I remember Coach Lopez always saying, baseball is a mental sport or mental activity masquerading as a physical sport. And it totally is. It's a mental activity. And if you lose the mental battle, like you said, your mechanics aren't going to be smooth and easy because you're freaked out that a guy's going to hit a jack on the next pitch you throw. So you're flying open on the front side and you're scared to put the ball over the plate. And there's so many different ways it can go south. So, the mental side and having a coach that can cue that is huge. So, okay, so you're with Colorado, and then, take me through the transition, the end of your career, and then out. What does that look like?
I hit I was having some elbow problems there. I got released by the Brewers, and then I got, I put up a good second half of the year with McClure there in 04 with the Rockies, and then didn't really get a lot of bites. In 05, I got a late invite with the White Sox. I had a good camp, man, but I got released like the last day.
Oh, geez.
And so I couldn't hook on.
Yeah.
So I ended up playing for the Long Island Ducks.
Okay.
And I'm in independent ball. I'm just crawling to, and they're a good independent
Yeah,
league
for
team,
sure.
you
Yeah,
know what
yeah.
I mean? But like you're out of affiliated baseball now.
Yeah.
You're trying to get back in. And John Rocker was on my team, and he was just, he was a max effort guy. So he's like going max effort and just 88, barely even hitting 90. And he's just going mental.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
And I don't blame him. I would feel the exact same way. Can you imagine throwing
No,
100
one
to
day,
88.
One day he was down with Tom House, and I was still seeing Tom once in a while in the off season, and he literally threw a whole bucket of balls down at Mission Bay High School in San Diego over the fence. There was like a quarry or something next to the baseball field, so those balls are gone. You can't get to that. Took off his shoes, like his shirt, like hat, glove, threw everything over the fence, and like walked off like shirtless, barefoot, got into his like sports car and just bailed. And we're all just like, what just happened?
Yeah.
And it was just, I mean, and
Yeah,
then the other stories I can't tell. This is a family podcast.
It's a family
Keith.
podcast.
All right,
Yeah,
I can't be going there, but yeah,
That's crazy.
It was an interesting. I mean, what about your minor leagues, dude? Do you have any? Because minor league stories,
So,
you gotta have.
So you bring up the.
Are there some just classic stories?
I thought of. So you bring up the release. So you get released the last day of camp with the White Sox. I got released the first day of camp with the Phillies, and I absolutely deserved it. I stunk. Like this is coming off of a bad year. This is 06 spring training, and so the Phillies have a deal where the minor league hotel is about a mile away from spring training. So I get released. I mean, literally, like I'm walking in. The coordinator's looking around, sees me, and he beelines right at me. And I'm like, all right, here we go. Like, I know
you had a feeling you knew it.
I was bad. Like,
But it's first day, right?
No, it wasn't the first day. It was the first day they were releasing guys.
Oh, God.
Yeah, not the first day. Of camp. No. So I'd already had a bad camp.
Yeah.
That had been taken care
so
of.
you're just hiding, man.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. If I could have hit, I would have.
If I hide long enough, they can't release me, man. They can't cut me.
So I'm walking up, and he walks right to me, and he was a great guy. Gorm Heimuller, good dude. It wasn't his fault. I stunk, But so they pull me in, they release me. Hey, we're got to go a different direction. Best of luck. Know some independent teams that could use an arm. You showed some signs, but it wasn't working out. So, okay, fair enough. So pack up my locker, say bye to all the friends, all the thing. I'm walking out and I'm looking for a cab or anything. Hey, I'll take that Astro limo you were talking about. We'll take it. Take anything.
Wait, they got nothing to take you to the airport?
Nothing. No, to the hotel. Nothing.
Oh.
So I'm walking with
lugging on your bag,
lugging my Phillies bag,
just
fully packed of
feeling like the biggest loser in Florida
for sure. Walking down the interstate again, like you mentioned, the interstate. No real sidewalk, and guys are beeping at me, "Go Phillies!" And I feel like saying, "Hey, you know what? F you."
Yeah, I just got released. Thanks, buddy.
So mile plus walk back to the hotel. Feeling again,
sweating because it's 100 degrees out.
It's spring training, but it's still super hot, and it was not great. It was one of those, like you said, you think of minor league stories and you bring up releases. That's the first thing I always go to. It's like, man, that was a rough walk. Well, and then again, this is at the time too when you're starting to realize maybe this isn't happening anymore.
Yeah, well, I mean, not to be Tommy Topper, but then halfway through my year in Long Island, I got released by the Long Island Ducks. So I got released in independent ball.
Yeah, that's.
And then the funny thing is, it's like, I mean, like you hit rock bottom, right? You're just like, so I just got picked up by the Bridgeport Bluefish.
Okay.
And I just started going, screw it, man. Yeah. And I'm just gonna forget mechanics, everything. Like I am gonna just let it hunt.
Yeah.
And I just started throwing everything as hard as I could. Within balance,
there's some form of mechanics, but
compared to where I was, I had kind of like a smooth, effortless delivery. Well, now I was just like rip it, and I had this last 2 months where I just like kind of was like, whoa,
yeah,
all right, and I was throwing hard, probably like 93, 94, maybe touching 95,
and back then that was big velocity,
and then I can't get a sniff, and I literally am like, okay,
that's bizarre.
So I'm like, I'm gonna go fly on my own dime, and I got a tryout with Baltimore. I had to go back to Sarasota, I think, where they were, and I literally threw the most nerve-wracking bullpen of my life in front of 12 dudes standing behind me, and I feel like I'm throwing really well, but they're not saying a thing.
Yeah. So
I'm just like, there's no feedback. Like, I don't know how they're feeling about it, and they go, hey, we'd like to bring you into spring training. I'm just like, I'm like, okay, that's great. But inside, I'm like, yes.
I know.
Because I'm like, I'm thinking I'm out of the game.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
If this doesn't happen. And they ended up, a couple of their bonus babies ended up getting injured, and I ended up starting for like the first time in my life. I put together this great season. I had like the second leading ERA in AAA in the IL, and thinking, okay, I'm going to get a call up. Yeah. And I don't get a call up there.
Oh, jeez, yeah.
But they had thrown me to the wolves, man. because they had a bunch of bonus babies that just kept. Oh my, I'm a little
Yeah.
tender.
I
Bulls,
know
you're
that
up.
class, yeah.
You're starting today. It's like, what? I threw 100 pitches 2 days ago. What do
Yeah.
you mean I'm starting today in 38-degree weather?
Yeah.
So it was like great because I got this opportunity, but like it just wrecked my arm.
Yeah. Oh,
So long story short, the next year I get signed free agent, and I actually I get a decent minor league deal off this year with the Giants, but I just wasn't the same.
Yeah.
I mean, the arm, it was just like going into a gunfight with a knife. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, I was just like throwing 80 poo and nothing behind it, and it was a good team. Lincecum was on that team. He was my roommate, my throwing partner.
Okay. This with the Giants.
Yeah, I mean, the guy would just throw like 98-mile-an-hour cutters without telling me from like 50 feet away, and like ha 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 ha. Like, I mean, just like you think. I mean, like the way he came off is like he just had this boyish like like exuberance and personality. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
But I would be like, I just want Timmy. If you do that again, I'm gonna kill you, man.
Yeah, exactly. And you're a lot bigger than him.
God, he was just. I mean, but his arm was just lightning.
I know. It was so fun to watch when he was young. Oh my gosh.
But I get halfway through that year, and I'm just like, I'm 30, and I'm like, this is it. Like I don't want to be Crash Davis. Like my whole reason for playing minor league baseball was to get to the big leagues.
Yeah.
And if I feel like I can't pitch in the big leagues, it's time to hang it up.
Yeah.
And I'd kind of gotten to that point.
Okay.
I just had a few moments during that year where I was just getting ripped.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what fun is this? You know what I mean? I'm not just, I got other things I can do. At this point, I had chipped away at a lot of college, and I'm just like,
yeah. Where are you with your college degree?
I'm probably by the time I
years?
retired, I had taken 2 or 3 classes every year over the course of 13 years. I'd gotten 3 years done.
Okay, nice.
So I came back, and I had only had a year done, but I basically came in and nobody knew, and I just said, I told the manager, I'm like, this is my last start.
Yeah.
And he's like, really? And I'm like, yeah, I just, I don't feel like I have it anymore.
Yeah.
And I give this, speech to the guys because, AAA, man, is the most bitter level of baseball there is,
yeah,
right?
For sure.
Because everyone's getting screwed.
Yeah.
Right? Now, everyone has I got screwed story. And
Yeah.
you're just like, and everyone thinks that they should have got that call up. And so, it can be kind of
It's
like
tough, yeah.
a glass half empty, level of baseball. And a lot of bitter guys. And there was some of that going on this team. We had a really good team. Like I said, Lincecum was on that team. A bunch of other guys, young guys that ended up winning, going on and being on some of those World Series teams. And we were just losing.
Yeah.
And I just said, hey, guys, this is my last day. And I just said, I came into minor league baseball saying, I'm going to give it 2, maybe 3 years. And if I'm not in the big leagues, I'm just going to call it a day.
Yeah.
And I just said, here I am, man, 13 years later. And it's just been such an incredible journey. Of course, I would have liked to have had more major league time. Of course, whatever. But I got there, and I just said to these guys, I said, you can walk in here every day and you can choose how to look at your situation, and you can feel like you're getting screwed. You're not getting enough opportunity, but all of us are, man, so blessed to be able to play this game, to be able to even put on this uniform. And I'm looking at some of these young punks, man, and I'm like, didn't even, I'm not getting through. So I just kind of wrapped it up like, hey, I don't want to make this day about me. Let's just go out and win.
Yeah.
That's all I want to do, man. I just want to win on my last day.
Yeah.
And I go out and I'm starting to warm up, man, and all the guys come out and they're all wearing high socks because I wore high socks.
Yeah.
I always wore knee high,
Yeah.
And every single guy, including the manager, the whole coaching staff, everybody's wearing
That's cool.
high socks.
That's
and
awesome,
I'm kind
man.
of getting like goosebumps, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like thinking about it. And they all signed a bat for me.
Oh, that's awesome.
And they all came up to me, like all came down the line. They're like, this is for you, man. This is for you, Bullseye. We're going to go out and play for you today.
Yeah.
And it was one of the best days of my life, man. I
Yeah.
went out there and I ended up getting like an ND,
Yeah.
I gave up like pitch 5, gave up 2 or 3, it
they're
wasn't
fine, yeah.
It wasn't great, but it wasn't. And so the coach goes, okay, I'm going to put someone else in the 6th. And I forget who it was. The players, the pitching coaches were like, man, let him go back out.
Yeah.
Just for the warm-ups.
Yeah.
And then pull him.
Then pull him. Yeah.
And it was the classiest move. And I'm forgetting my manager's name. But he's like, yeah, go back out for the warm-ups. I can't remember his idea or the players, but he let me do it.
Yeah.
So I went out and I just started throwing like sidearm slider. I mean, stuff, right? Like I had been such like a taken my craft really seriously, through I mean, if I had to do anything, I'd go back and just shake myself and I'd be like, have more fun.
Yeah.
I just took it so serious sometimes. And I think you need
For
that.
sure. Yeah, you need
because you have to have that
yeah.
professionalism. You got to have that work ethic and that, get up every day and grind, and show up. But then I wish I had played with more joy. Yeah. But for those moments, I was just like, I was throwing Frisbee sidearm sliders. I was doing Louis Tiant, twist back, face second base. And guys are just laughing and they're coming in. They're like, dude, this is awesome. All the guys came in and he came and pulled me. And literally, I think everybody from the outfield, all the guys on the field came out and, dude, just giving me high fives right there. And the whole crowd gave me like a standing ovation.
That's awesome.
And they announced it over the PA. So somebody must have called, because I didn't tell anybody.
Yeah.
Called up and they announced, ladies and gentlemen, Brian Bowles retiring after 13 years in professional baseball. And I'm like, God, like, where's the white horse, man? Like, let me just ride off into the sunset, dude. Like, And it was the coolest thing. I came in and my buddy Dan Geis, who pitched with the Phillies,
I know
and
Dan.
he's now, Danny is like second behind Cashman with the Yankees, and it's just, I mean, he's the greatest guy.
Great guy, yeah.
Same thing, guy with like, not like elite level stuff that ended up making a nice career for himself, getting 2-3, I don't even, maybe more years in the big leagues, and just the greatest guy.
Yeah, one of the nicest guys around for sure.
He's just waterworks, man. I'm like, dude, so he's crying, and now I'm like, okay, I'm losing it, man. And I'm just sobbing like a baby, and he gives me a big hug, and I'm just sitting there kind of soaking it in. And it was like, I'm getting goosebumps just kind of thinking about it. It was a cool way to go out.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And just kind of no regrets. Like, hey, man, I did it as well as I could at the time, with what I knew at the time. And shoot, I never thought I'd play for that long.
No, that's 13 years, man. That's a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you always want more big league time.
Of course.
Or you always want to, if you haven't got there, you want to get there. And if you get there, you want to stay. And, and it's never enough. But, in hindsight, you're just like, yeah, it was a cool ride, man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so the transition out, so you're done playing. What's the next step? Like, what is it? I mean, to this day, what's that been like?
I came home, right, growing up, Manhattan Beach, South Bay summer, surfing, beach, girls in bikinis, the whole thing. I had missed out on 13 years of that. I was like, so I just beached it. I just was like surfing every day, soaking it up, laying on the beach like a bum, and just loving it.
Yeah.
And then I went back and I got my degree at Santa Barbara in 2008. And my buddy Tom Myers, who is now a Chicago White Sox,
Cubs.
Chicago Cubs,
Yeah.
Chicago White Sox, Cubs, scout, he was like the pitching coach for the team. He's like, hey, you should come on out. And I'm like, dude, I just had 13 years of this, man. I don't want any baseball. He's just like, man, just come out.
Yeah.
And they had a pretty good team that year. And he ended up convincing me to come on, and I was the volunteer assistant. I'm like, I might as well, man. I'm like, I'm back at Santa Barbara. I'm not going out to like keg parties, man. I'm just trying to get my degree here.
And you're 30 years old?
Yeah, I'm 30. So I'm like, I'm not hanging out in IV, So I'm like, okay, like I'll be the volunteer assistant, try to pass on some knowledge. And I really was surprised how much I really enjoyed coaching and passing on, like you said, that knowledge to, like we talked about. It's just like, you're now competing, through these kids, trying to give them the tools and the know-how and to be successful. And that was cool, building, pitching protocols and programs and all that kind of stuff. They let me run the bullpen and it was a really cool experience. I think it and then I got back, I got my degree, and I was like, okay. I started like doing training. I was training guys. I was doing strength and conditioning stuff, and I was doing pitching lessons. But like, I don't think I went to a big league game or watched a big league game for like 3 years.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
you know what I'm saying? Like
refrain. Yeah.
Like, did you have that same experience?
Yes.
Like, I just did not want anything to do with it, and no, like maybe a little bitterness, but not really bitter. Just kind of like, dude, I need a break.
It's like a detox.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. I
mean, I just need to take,
I
need a burn time out.
Yeah, just no big leagues for a while. I mean, even any kind of baseball, college, high school, it didn't matter. It's just like, give me a couple years break.
College was cool for me because it was like a different thing.
Yeah, that's true. That's
the game is like,
it's way different.
So different.
Yeah.
It was
it's not just the metal bats.
It was a tough adjustment for me, man. I was just like, what is like pitch selection to like
bunting all the time.
Yeah, I mean, tons of sacrifice bunting, tons of like stealing third in the wrong situation. I mean, just breaking all of like the rules, you know, the quote unquote rules of like traditional baseball. Because if you do those kinds of things in pro ball, the arm talent within the infield, and you're just going to look silly. You're going to get thrown out.
Get thrown
you know?
out, yeah.
So it was like an adjustment. I was like, wait, this is like a good play. You know, like stealing third with like, you know, whatever, like, you know, 1 out, like, you know, 2 strikes. And I talked to a manager and just be like, why, like, that worked, but like, why? You know, like, why are we doing that? And he's just like, man, I just feel like we gotta, you know, we got to get something going. We got to try to force the action because, you know, at high school and even the college level, you make people try to play fast catch. A lot of times you apply enough pressure, man. I mean, just
they throw it away.
They throw it away.
Yeah. And in pro ball, they don't. You're out.
You're out.
Yeah.
You're out.
You bunt the ball, silly. You're out. Yeah. Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're out by 10 feet. Yeah.
So that was an adjustment. Yeah. You know, but anyway, you were saying, like, I didn't mean to cut you off. So like, how was your adjustment period after?
It was interesting. The same thing. I've said this before, but I got it really into yoga, and I think the whole reason was, you know, it's a way to detox from baseball. It's another kind of, you know, direction of the compass I didn't think I would go, but it was something to kind of go for, and I felt like the more I had some kind of goal, some kind of aspiration, then I could easily kind of get the baseball out of my bloodstream. And it worked for a little bit. I was super into it. I got my certification. You know, I'm all in. I'm thinking, oh, yeah, maybe I'll go be the yoga instructor for the Dodgers or something ridiculous that. But it was a nice break. And then, you know, a couple of years later, I'd say 1.5 years, I was ready to get back in. And you know, I missed the game. But I would say if I went straight back into it, I don't know how I'd feel about it right now. I mean, I'm at the point now where I can watch every pitch of a big league game and be happy doing it.
No, me too. I love it now.
Yeah. But at the time, it was like, I don't want to see any of these guys. I've played against them all.
Well, that's the other thing, right? You're seeing all your friends too,
exactly.
that you know, that are up there.
And 95%,
and you're happy for them.
95% were deservedly up there.
Yeah.
5% you're like, what? That guy made it? but there just needed to be like that solid
little grace period.
Yeah, grace period. 2 years detox, get it out of my blood, give me a break, and then. But now it's. I mean, I can watch every playoff game.
Yeah,
love watching the regular season. I love that, you know, you can kind of follow a group, and it becomes almost like, you know, friends throughout the summer. Like you're barbecuing, you got the baseball game on, and you're watching your team play. And that part's been great. But I don't think I could have rolled back into it. I needed that break, and it sounds like maybe you did too a little bit.
I definitely did. You know, it was like when you're doing something and when you're committing to it, you're eating, breathing, sleeping, just baseball.
Yeah.
And it was amazing.
Yeah.
But I think it's mentally and physically, I mean, it takes a toll. I mean, I remember, like, I've never been to Europe.
Yeah, I know.
You know, I never traveled. I didn't do, and people are like, oh, you know, but you saw all the United States. I'm like, yeah, I saw the inside of like some of the worst hotels and some of the podunk cities of the United States. And I was like, I wasn't getting up seeing the historic relics because, like, I pitched the 9th inning. I ate dinner at 10:30. I went to sleep at 2 a.m., you know, because you can't dial down.
You can't dial down.
So I'm waking up at 10, 11 o'clock, you know, and then I'm eating lunch.
At 1:30.
I'm watching Sports Center, and then I'm going to the yard. You know, I'm not like out sightseeing, you know.
You just pretty much summed up the day of a minor league athlete.
You know what I mean?
That is 100%.
Yeah, there's all these guys, like, I love golf, but like, I was a reliever, so I didn't know if I was going to get in that night. So I couldn't play a lot of golf during my years unless I went like
you need sleep.
3 innings a day before. Like, I'm going to sleep. I don't want to wake up at 8 a.m. and be exhausted, you know, the whole day, you know?
Yeah, no, I agree, man. And you could, obviously, some guys use the pharmaceuticals or the heavy coffee to get you up. But, I mean, you do that enough that you can't make a full season. I mean, you'll burn out. I feel like I would have at least.
Yeah, I feel like I feel fortunate. Like, I didn't get into that. Like greenies, you know, like low grade amphetamines. That was such an epidemic. I mean, people talk about steroids in baseball, but, you know, we played. Yeah. And greenies. I hope that stuff's out of there now. I hope they're testing enough for it. But, like, you know, people to get up for the game, and then you know, I got in the major leagues too, and I was just seeing guys, you know, taking the sleeping pills to go back down and just riding this roller coaster. And I was like, man, I was lucky I didn't have an addictive personality that I just didn't even kind of get into that that whole deal. Also, I think if anything, I don't know about you when you competed, But I was like real fiery, right? Like, so I didn't need to go up anymore.
Yeah.
I needed to kind of, if anything, I needed to mellow, you know?
Yeah.
So that wasn't something that I think would have played to my strengths anyway.
Yeah, my personality off field's very mellow, but yeah, I would say when I'm on the field, it's almost too much to a fever pitch where I'd have to go down a notch. And I couldn't go down too much because, I didn't really have the pure stuff to be mellow and just execute pitches. There needed to be an edge, but like you said, if I got too high, I mean, the ball is going all over the place. There was an outing I'll never forget. I'd been released by the Rockies. I come back and throw against them later that year after being picked up by the Diamondbacks, and I'm trying to prove something.
You're
It's
fired
like,
up.
yeah, it's a lot of their guys. It's Tulowitzki, it's Ian Stewart, it's a lot of really talented guys that I'm going to show them they blew
made a
it.
mistake.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And couldn't have been further from what happened. I mean, I was fine. I think I gave up a run in 2 innings and actually, had some success against those guys I mentioned. But I mean, it was nothing great.
Did you relieve or did you start most
I was
of
a
your
starter
career?
my whole career.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, except that with that run with the Diamondbacks, I was a reliever.
So towards the end.
Yeah, towards
See,
the
and
end.
I was the opposite. So I relieved, and then late
Yeah.
in my career, I started a little
Yeah,
bit.
that's interesting.
Which is interesting. So I think I could kind of be more fired up as a reliever.
Yeah.
You could do that. But you can't do that as a starter,
No,
right?
no, exactly. I mean, I couldn't. I feel like I would have been great for 3 innings, and then stuff would have degraded so much that second, third time through the lineup, which is obviously, we're talking early 2000s, that used to happen a lot, where it doesn't happen as much anymore. But
Yeah,
I feel like
they'd let you go.
they'd let you go. Yeah,
Yeah.
you had pretty much 100 pitches in the minor leagues to work with, and it didn't matter how many times you saw the lineup. I mean, if you got
Yeah, they
through
weren't
3,
keeping track of that, right?
Exactly.
It was just
Whole
kind of
different
pitches.
thing. Yeah.
How many pitches?
How many
so if you're
pitches?
under 100,
You're still out there.
You're still
and,
out
and you're
there.
not getting hammered, obviously.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
no, I'd say there had to have been a little bit of a rhythm to the outing where, you have your tempo and your routines and you're attacking the zone, and that's kind of your focus versus I'm going to be as nasty as I can.
you're establishing the game.
Exactly.
You're laying the foundation.
Yeah.
See, I learned that later as I had to start too, but yeah, I think, and I had to learn that because,
Yeah.
like I said, I think if you're pitching on pure adrenaline like a reliever who's just coming in, just boom, boom, boom,
Letting it eat.
letting it eat, and then hard slider, split, breaking pitch, whatever for a put out pitch. You can do that for a few innings, but you're not going to be able to maintain 5, 6, 7 innings,
And then
with that
4 or 5 months of that. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah,
You
I mean,
get
it would
to-
just, yeah. it would
You're
be-
thinking in terms of 180 innings.
Yeah.
How do I do this well for 180 innings throughout a summer?
Yeah.
And be effective enough that
Yeah.
you can pitch again in 5 days.
All right. So, funniest, you got to give me one or two of like the funniest minor league stories. I don't know if you've done this on any other episode.
I haven't. No.
But like, we know it's family friendly.
Yeah. No, I'll stay in that.
But like, I need
Here's one.
I need like a Ramsey
I'm
classic
2-0 in the pizza scream.
pizza scream.
So the pizza scream. So when you're a minor league baseball player, I was a lot goofier when I was younger, by the way. I had like blue hair at one point. You can ask a lot of people. So when you're a minor league pitcher, a starting pitcher, when you're not pitching, you are charting in the stands.
Yeah.
And so some of these places, when I say you're charting in the stands, you would think, oh, there are these athletes among 5,000.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case in a lot of games. I mean,
No.
it's you're you and another starting pitcher, or potentially 2 other starting pitchers are out there, and there's 35 people in the stands.
Yeah.
But yet they're still going to run all the same promotions. The race the mascot, the pizza scream, this dizzy bat race, all
Yeah,
those things
yeah.
that they would do.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I think I'm in Williamsport, and this is like one of my first years, and they're doing a
This is
pizza
mid-A?
scream. No, this is short
Williamsport's
season.
short season.
Short
Yeah,
season
yeah.
at the time.
The
yeah.
Penn League?
Penn League.
Yeah.
And they're doing the pizza scream, where you're screaming your head off, and if you do that well enough, you get a pizza.
Yeah.
So I'm starving, and we're not allowed to eat.
No,
You know,
not
when
they
you're
wouldn't
charting.
let you eat.
No, not when you're charting.
Like you can't have like popcorn or like
No,
any-
I don't think I could at the time. I think there was a reason for this besides just being a jackass. So anyway, guy comes around, and dude, I'm going ape shit. Like I'm jumping up and down. I'm scratching my arms. I'm fully committed. Like if you thought, I was
And
I
you're
was getting
charting.
that, and
You're
I'm
charting.
charting. I was getting that damn pizza.
Did he seek you out or did you go find
No,
him?
I went and found him.
This is so
I
good.
I put my chart down. I
Yeah.
literally.
Did you change clothes? You
No,
put
I
on
was-
like a
I was in
Like a
my
little
collared
disguise?
shirt. I was in my appropriate
And you're-
attire,
and you're
and
on
just
the-
being a total jackass
On the Jumbotron.
on the Jumbotron.
Wow.
And
You went there.
So I went there, and I like I said, I'm 2-0 in my career in the pizza scream.
I love it.
So,
I love
and
it.
needless to say, my partner was stoked because he got to share the pizza with me.
Oh,
So,
there you go. There you go. Oh, yeah. It's one chart guy, one on the gun, right?
yeah, exactly.
You
One
always
chart, one on the gun.
You're in duo.
Yeah, exactly. So
Okay.
that's a good one. Again, I was goofy when I was young, man. I was very left-handed, as a lot of people can attribute.
Oh, dude, I love it. I love it.
Yeah, good stuff, man. What about you?
God, I got so many. I mean, I can remember one night our bus driver fell asleep, and literally I couldn't sleep because I'm so tall, I couldn't sleep across those minor league seats. So I would sleep on the floor, you get a sleeping bag, and then it's 3 a.m. in the middle of the morning,
for sure.
and the Latin guys on the back still got the merengue going full blast. You're like, guys, can you turn it down? They're like, no chance. Okay. So you got earplugs in, so I'm not hearing anything. So I just go from a dead sleep to waking up, and it's like I'm in the Olympic bobsled race. I am just flying. The bus just slammed on the brakes. We're in a ditch. I went from the back of the bus, just Mach speed, and I literally am like, and I slam into feet first, and the driver right at the very front of the bus, dude. And I'm just looking at him and he's so rattled, and I'm like, really, come on, man, you had one job, okay? Stay awake and don't get in an accident. We're in some ditch, and thank God we didn't die.
That's so fantastic. That reminds me of Spaceballs. Just that scene.
But
ludicrous
the panic,
speed.
It was ludicrous speed, dude. I didn't even know where I was. I was just what is going on right now? Just flying down this bus. And it was one of those Sheen sleeping bags.
Yeah, no, I know exactly.
So, man, it is really, there's not a lot of friction going on. I am just flying,
Oh, man.
I'm lucky I didn't break an ankle or something. So that was interesting. I remember another time my manager, same thing, woke up, and it's the middle of the morning. We're driving, in the middle of, this was the Pioneer League. So we're in Montana, that area.
Yeah, and you're young.
And he's a hunter from the South. So he gets up and he's like, hit that damn thing. And we're all like, what? Hit what? And he's straddling, he's standing up, at the front of the bus next to, he's like, that's a 12-pointer. And it was a deer in the middle of the road, and he wanted to mow it down so we could he could stuff it and put it on the wall or barbecue it up for deer meat later or whatever. And I'm just that was a classic one.
Oh my God.
I'm trying to think what else. Oh, in Hagerstown, Maryland, we won the cow milking. We had a cow milk. Again, the crazy in between inning minor league stuff.
Yep.
And I think, we're the home team, so I think they loaded our cow. We got Bessie, what I mean? So I'm down there just milking this cow. It was the weirdest thing.
Oh, it's a real cow?
Yeah, dude, it was a cow. And we got to fill up the pail, with milk. And I'm just this is kid from Manhattan Beach. I don't know how to milk a cow. So we ended up winning the cow milking contest. I mean,
oh my gosh,
dude, there was
so many.
Another time, you in the stands, this was, I think, after I was up in the big league. So I felt pretty comfortable, okay, I'm not going to get released. You know what I mean? And it was a rain delay. And I went down, I traded outfits with the mascot.
Okay, yeah.
And I was in the mascot, and I was just out leading cheers and just doing my thing, and I went up to a few of the players in between innings and was smacking them in the face, and they're like, "What the heck is going on, dude?" They were gonna pop me,
Exactly.
What's a mascot doing messing
yeah.
with me? I'm like, "Hey, it's Bullsy. Shh, don't tell anybody." And they're just like, "What?" They could. What are you doing in the mascot uni? That kind of stuff. But I mean, that's the stuff you had to do,
baseball.
right?
Yeah.
You got 140 games. You get 1 day off a month.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just you got to do it.
Keep yourself
from going
entertained.
criminally insane.
I know.
You know what I mean?
I know, man.
So we had fun.
Oh man, that's awesome. Well, I think that's probably a good place to stop today. Awesome. I appreciate you being on, man.
Yeah,
You've been
buddy.
a longtime friend.
Thanks for having me on, man. This was fun.
Yeah.